Welcome to the show and happy May. It's good to be with you here another week. Had to be out of the studio for a week due to the Easter Seals telethon, and what a wonderful reason that is to be out of the studio. Of course, they do a fantastic job with that. And speaking of doing fantastic jobs, thanks to the folks at Panhandle Custom Homes, Kitchens, and Baths who took the set down and put it back up while the Easter Seals telethon was taking place here in the studio. And, you know, a lot of times I start this show with the community champions of the week, and I'm going to do that again this week. And this week it does go to the Easter Seals telethon volunteers. I mean, so many people come in here on Sunday and give their time to answer the phones, take in the donations, and to raise that needed money for so many children that need it to be provided services that are very necessary to allow them to thrive and do as best they can with whatever things they may be facing. And if it weren't for the volunteers that come in and man those phones and go out and get the donations, that wouldn't be possible. So the community champions this week here on the Jamie Bordas Show, the Easter Seals Telethon volunteers, thanks to all of you for the work and time that you put in to making that event another success this year. Next up, the quote of the week. And this comes from one of my favorite people of all time, somebody that I have always admired, somebody that I have looked up to, and that is Coach Lou Holtz. When I was at the University of Notre Dame as a student, my first 4 years there, Coach Holtz was the head football coach. My 3 years of law school after that, he was no longer there. And boy, did I miss him being there, hearing what he had to say every week, listening to him speak. I was the sports editor of the yearbook at Notre Dame for 3 years, so I had press credentials that allowed me to go to the press conferences, get into practice if I wanted to. So I spent a lot of time watching, observing, listening to Coach Holtz and the way that he conducted himself, ran his practices, but also some of the things that he had to say. And this is one of my favorites from him. The only things that are going to change you from where you are today to where you are 5 years from now are the books you read, the people you meet, and the dreams you dream. You know, the reason that I chose that particular quote is that none of us know where we will be 5 years from now, but we do have a lot of control over that. But if you keep doing the same things that you are accustomed to doing, nothing will change in your life. But you know, how do we change? How do we go in a different direction? How do we improve ourselves? And he's right, you know, through the people we meet, you know, we can have conversations, we can learn from those people, we can see a different perspective, and that can change us. The books we read, again, we can learn things, our minds can be expanded, we can grow as a person. And also the dreams we dream. You know, if you want to change, if you want your life to go in a different direction, you have to dream it. And it's interesting because one of the things Coach Holtz always would say is that too many people, you know, don't dream big enough. You know, he says, you know, you talk about Martin Luther King, he didn't say, I have a strategic plan. He said, I have a dream. You know, you want to think as big as you possibly can, because even if you don't get all the way there, you'll get pretty far down the road if you have that dream and you really look forward to it. So I like this particular quote because I always want to improve myself in every area of my life that I can, whether it be my personal life, my spiritual life, my work life. You know, you want to get better every day at what you're doing. And if you look at these things and say, okay, the people you meet, the books you read, the dreams you dream, and how those things can help you improve in each area of your life, then I think you can be happy, have a smile on your face, and also have some success at what you do. So I like that quote from Coach Holt. Legal tip this week. This is something that's been actually coming up a little bit in my law practice recently, so I thought I would talk about it here on the show. And that is that a lot of people think that if you get hurt in the workplace, that the workers' compensation system is your only route. And a lot of times that's true. The workers' compensation system was designed so that you cannot sue your employer if your employer is negligent and you end up getting hurt. In exchange for that, if you get hurt on the job, regardless of whether it was your employer's fault or somebody else's fault or nobody's fault, you receive, you know, the payment of your wages, things of that nature through the workers' compensation system. So it's kind of a trade-off. But there are exceptions to that, and some things people aren't aware of. First of all, you get hurt at the workplace and say it's some other company's fault, not your employer, but let's say you're on a construction job site and you're working and there's different trades there. You know, maybe you're working as an electrician and say there's a carpenter there that does something negligent and causes you, the electrician, to be injured. Well, just because you were injured on the job doesn't mean that workers' comp is your only viable option. It is one option, and it's one that you can take advantage of, but also you may be able to recover from the insurance company of the carpenter's business as a result of that, because it's not your employer. So in other words, you would be proceeding against someone else's employer or against someone else themselves. So their insurance may provide you with an alternative and be able to provide you with more than what the workers' compensation system would be able to provide you. Another exception to that is what we call the deliberate intent laws. that is an exception to the workers' compensation laws, where you are allowed to sue your own employer if you can show that they acted with intent for you to be harmed. Now, it doesn't have to mean they wanted you to get hurt. But for example, say that there's a known safety standard that you shouldn't do something a certain way, and they tell you to do it anyway. Forget that safety standard. I want this thing done. I want it done now. Go do it this way anyway. And then you get hurt, and they're violating a known safety standard, and you get hurt seriously. Then the workers' comp immunity may not exist with respect to them. You may be able to proceed under what's called the deliberate intent laws, and you can recover for things like your pain and suffering and things of that nature that you would not be able to recover for under the workers' compensation system, where you can typically just collect your wages, your medical bills, things of that nature. So there are some exceptions to that. So the point is that if you do get hurt on the job, a good thing to do is to call a lawyer and find out what your rights are, and not just assume, well, workers' comp is my only route. It may be, and the lawyer will advise you of that, hopefully, and then you'll be able to proceed under the workers' compensation system, under which you may or may not need a lawyer. You may be able to do that without a lawyer. But the important thing is to find out what your rights are so you don't give up any of your rights. We're going to need to take a break. When I come back, I'll have my guest with me this week, and that is David Allinder, publisher of In Wheeling Magazine. We'll be talking about the upcoming edition and other things about the magazine. Stay with us here on the Jamie Bordas Show.
Don't forget to do your homework.
All right, Mom. Trick or treat.
Here you go. Happy Halloween.
For your home, for your life, for more than 50 years, DeNoon Lumber.
Disasters happen. We take care of them all, from cleanup to reconstruction. Tell your insurance provider you prefer Panhandle Cleaning and Restoration, the official restoration company of the Mountaineers.
Welcome back to the show. This is my favorite time each week when I have a guest with me, and this week my guest is David Allinder, publisher of In Wheeling Magazine. David, thanks for being here with me on the show.
Thanks for having me.
A lot of people in Wheeling have probably seen this magazine through the years, sitting in the various doctor's offices and other places around town. Some people may even pick it up, buy it at the grocery store, and you're the guy behind this. I mean, how'd you come to start the In Wheeling Magazine?
Well, there was no magazine in Wheeling, and we found, Dominic Cerrone and I found that there were a number of cities the size of Wheeling that had magazines that were quite successful. So we said, let's give this a shot. And we decided, if we're going to do this, let's have it be something that makes a difference. So we said, what's the issue right now? And we said, a lot of people in Wheeling aren't really all that up on their city. We heard a lot of things like Wheeling's going downhill, Wheeling isn't what it used to be. And we heard that all over the place. We said, what? There's a lot more going on here than people are talking about. So we wanted to highlight those things and get people to change their mindset and say, maybe Wheeling's growing. Maybe Wheeling's on the upswing. Maybe things are exciting in Wheeling. So we decided to dedicate the magazine to everything that is exciting and extraordinary about Wheeling. And there's been no end to it. So you started off, I love the quote from Coach Holt that you start off with. People that you meet, books that you read, and the dreams that you realize. Every issue, this is a book full of people realizing dreams. Couldn't have been a better quote, and that's what we do. So each issue of the magazine has a theme, and each theme connects. Each article within the theme connects, and it's about going on a journey. It's about going on a trip. And you decide where that trip takes you by your interpretations, what each article means to you, and what every face, every person, every word, every article means to you. That all comes together to make a difference.
How long have you been at it now? How long has the magazine been around?
10 years.
It's been that long. That's hard to believe.
It'll be our 10th anniversary in August.
So, I would think one of the challenges would be, 4 issues every year,
Yes.
and to come up with, okay, what's the theme going to be? How do you not run out of ideas? How do you keep coming up with things? So how do you determine what the theme is going to be?
We sit down in a room. Laura, our office manager, Stacy, our production manager, Dominic, and myself, and we start brainstorming. And we think about it every day. There isn't a day that goes by that we don't see something or hear something and think about it. So we bring all those thoughts. Everyone, all four of us, bring those thoughts into the meeting, and we start putting them out. And it's amazing. We come out of that meeting, which takes an hour, with a whole plan for the whole year. But we don't plan out every individual article. Then we sit down before each article and we spend about an hour, and we come up with all the themes, all the articles, all the titles. And then we go out, we get the writers, we get the photographs, we get the research done, and it all comes together. We don't know how, but every issue it does. We start off with how we're going to pull this together, and every piece comes together. And it's about the people that you mentioned. Person after person steps up. They just show up. We put out phone calls, we put out an announcement in the previous issue what we're going to talk about in the next one, and all these people just come.
I think the magazine gives Wheeling an additional sense of credibility, perhaps, that when somebody comes in from the outside and they say, oh, hey, they got their own magazine here even, it does give you a little bit of a feel of a bigger city. There's, of course, Pittsburgh Magazine's been around forever.
Sure.
People very familiar with that here, even in this area, but certainly in the region. But, okay, hey, yeah, there's some things here going on, and it does give that just additional credibility, I think.
Yes, and the CVB and RED, Regional Economic Development, use the magazine extensively. They send them out, they go to conventions and so on, and we load them up with magazines and they spread them all over the place. But the difference between In Wheeling Magazine and the majority of all magazines is that we have a plan, and we have a theme for each issue, and the themes connect. Every once in a while you'll see seasonal themes within magazines, but that's about it. There's very rare cases where magazines actually put that much thought into and connecting all their articles together to take the reader on a journey. But that's what it's about.
Looking at every week, you've got three different issues here, but no matter which one you look at, you get it in. I'm gonna take this one because I'm on the back of it. I'll take this. But no matter which one you look at, if you see people around town, they almost always turn to the pictures of the people at different events and things and want to check that out first.
That's very important. And we'll hear people say, well, you see the same people at those events all the time. I say, yes, good, because every one of those people are writing a check to a charity. And every one of those people is making the choice to go to a charity event with hundreds of people and connect with their friends, connect with their business partners and other people in the community, instead of going to a national theme restaurant and sitting in a booth with their phones in front of them. Wheeling goes out, every Saturday night there's parties going on, and they're all fundraisers. They're all there to raise money for a charity so that we can be guardian angels and take care of our people in need and connect and build. Everything comes from connections. Your connections, the connections for your law firm, your advertising agency. It's all about connections to other people. Wheeling has a very strong community. People know each other, and that's why we bring this together. This magazine represents that. Every issue, it's filled with faces. Every face has a story, and every face has a connection. But you're right, people go to the society section in the back, because that's where, if you want good real estate, you put it in the back, and they want to see who's at the party. What faces do I know? And it's because people want to connect with their community.
You mentioned this winter 2016 edition that said Wheeling's Guardian Angels, and I thought that was a really cool topic because it is all about the people that are taking care of others in this community, that are providing services that are much needed for those that are less fortunate, maybe need them the most. And there are so many people that do that here in this area, and you were able to feature a number of them.
Yes, it's extraordinary. There's always going to be people in need, and people come in and out of need. But in Wheeling, there's always someone watching over you and someone willing to help. And that's because of the strong sense of community, from the people that pay for it, that support the events, to the people that dedicate their lives to running the organizations, from the volunteers that go to these organizations every day and give a bit of their time. It's all there. And it makes people grateful, because when someone, your neighbor, helps you out, and your friend and people you know in the community step out to help you up, you're appreciative of it. So that's why we wanted to highlight that, because we really think it's something absolutely extraordinary in the city. You don't see it to this degree in other cities.
We need to take a break. When we come back, I'll continue speaking with David Allinder. We'll talk about the upcoming edition that will be hitting the shelves this month. So stay with us here on the Jamie Bordas Show. Welcome back to the show. I've been speaking with my guest here this week, David Allinder, publisher of In Wheeling Magazine, and we've been talking about the history of the magazine and kind of what it has included in each issue. But Dave, let's talk a little about the issue that's coming out this month and what we can expect when it hits the shelves here in just a week or two.
The title of this issue is Join the Movement. So what is that? Wheeling has been part of movements that have spread nationally or regionally for forever. Even backwards, we did a historic movements, women's suffrage. A lot of pioneering efforts in the women's suffrage movement came out of Wheeling and Charleston and West Virginia. The McCarthyism movement, the first speech was delivered here in Wheeling, West Virginia. A lot of people don't know that. And also, there are artistic movements that have roots in Wheeling. There was an artist named Anschutz who did a very famous painting of mill workers. And it was the first time anyone actually sat down and said, let's paint something real life. And so that came out of Wheeling. Then we look forward. We look to today. What are the movements of today that are really exciting in Wheeling? And one movement you see in cities all over the country are people moving to downtown again. Wheeling is no exception. We have close to 130 units that have been completed and are a good 80% occupied in downtown Wheeling that did not exist 2 years ago. This is all new. So at least 130 families have moved into downtown Wheeling, and that is big because that brings restaurants. They demand things to do at night. They demand nightlife. They demand street places where they can go out and walk around and enjoy the outdoors. So Wheeling has not missed that movement at all. And then also we talk about religious movements found in Wheeling. The Catholic Church, Diocese Wheeling Charleston, has a number of pioneering activities that they've done. We talk about those. New Vrindavan, the first of their 3 temples, was built in Moundsville, very close to Wheeling, and it's a huge movement. And then the Church of Christ, a lot of people don't know that, but it was founded in Bethany over 100 years ago and has spread nationwide, if not worldwide. So we have movement after movement. And
even the state of West Virginia itself,
exactly.
He started here in Wheeling,
Exactly, and it's the only state in the nation to have split, and actually, if I'm correct on that, I don't want to.
An interesting thing about Wheeling too, that a lot of people may forget or maybe haven't even known, is that Wheeling is the only city in the country that has been the capital of 2 different states. It was the capital of Virginia, of the succeeded state of not the seceded state, but
Sure.
the state of Virginia as it stayed, separate from the succeeded state, and then also the first capital of West Virginia. So, capital of two different states, the one Virginia and then West Virginia both, and of course now capital of none, but nonetheless. Sure. But of course the Independence Hall here, first state capital here. So that was a movement away from Virginia, so to speak.
Exactly. Now we took our cover photo in front of that is the first state capital. Is that correct? Now is that the first state capital? Because you'll know this, of Virginia or West Virginia?
I believe both, but I'm not positive on that. Of course, Independence Hall, where the actual was formed, is just around the corner. And then, of course, the first state capital, is right there, kind of the 15th and Oak, right next to the sheriff's department there, where the photo was taken. So, a lot of history here.
Yeah, we're excited about that cover because we have a big sign up. We acted out joining the movement. So there's a big sign that actually the guy who runs New Vrindavan is holding up the sign. Jamie, you're in the photo along with the mayor and a bunch of other people. Everyone's excited and showing, let's join the movement, because it's about dreams. Everyone who has a dream should read this issue, bring that dream into their mind. If we can get 22,000 people to bring those dreams to the front of their mind and think about them, and then connect with the people and connect with the community, can you imagine what's going to happen here next? We've had a lot happen here over the past 10 years. What's going to happen next? I don't think we have limits.
It's absolutely going to be an interesting issue to read, and I think fun for a lot of people. And I appreciate you being here on the show today to talk about that and a little bit about why you started the magazine in the first place.
Thanks for having me.
All right. We need to take a break. When we come back, I'll be talking sports. Stay with us here on the Jamie Bordas Show. We've obtained the record results in almost every field of law.
And other attorneys can't say we've had the largest verdict in this field. We can. We've done these things. We've tried these cases. We've gotten the big results. We've gotten the big verdicts. That sets us apart.
I think that says something to insurance companies. It says something to corporations that this is a firm to be reckoned with.
It's not the size of the verdict that's so important. It's the change that we hope to bring about.
Bordas and Bordas, fighting for justice.
Welcome back to the show. It's time to talk sports, and let's start with the Pittsburgh Steelers draft. Interesting selection in the first round by the Steelers. TJ Watt, of course, brother of JJ Watt. Tons of success in the NFL. Defensive Player of the Year multiple times, and people a little surprised with the pick of TJ Watt in the first round. Some think it was maybe a reach to take him. I like the pick. I mean, the guy's extremely athletic, has a ton of upside. He actually started off in college on the offensive side of the ball, switched over, and some injury issues. A couple years ago had a knee surgery and missed the year, but the guy's motor runs and can get after the quarterback, something that's always been important in Pittsburgh, and it's something that's needed. James Harrison, probably only a year or two left here, lost Lawrence Timmons in the offseason. I thought maybe a middle linebacker would be the first round selection, especially with Foster sitting right there behind Watt that got selected. But I like this pick. And then in the second round, I was sitting there watching the draft, and I was sitting there saying out loud to the people I was watching with, please take Juju Smith-Schuster. Please take Juju Smith-Schuster. The guy can go down the field and make plays. And the Steelers really need someone opposite Antonio Brown that can go down the field and make plays. I mean, it was lacking last year. Martavis Bryant should be back this year if he can get himself straightened out and stay on the straight and narrow path. But it's some interesting social media, going on when the Steelers made this pick in the second round between some of the current receivers, saying, hey, he's not my replacement. And Mike Tomlin had to actually get involved and say, knock it off, guys. But, I think the guy could go down the field and catch the ball. Watched him play for USC, saw the way he went up to get the ball, and that's what I like with receivers. And I think Big Ben needs that target down the field that can take some of that pressure off Antonio Brown as well. And then you look toward, then they started making some needs picks. You know, the third round, get Cameron Sutton, the cornerback out of Tennessee. That secondary still needs some support. They spent 2 high draft picks last year in the secondary that have worked out well so far. But to get another guy there that can support them in the secondary, I think was important. And then, of course, the feel-good pick in round 3 with James Conner, the running back out of Pittsburgh who battled cancer, is now cancer-free, came back to have a good year at Pitt last year, and is now selected by the Steelers. Just a really good feel-good story. And then gets the quarterback in the 4th round. I really thought the Steelers might take DeShone Kizer in the 2nd if he was still sitting there. The Browns took him about 10 picks earlier. I don't know how I feel about that for DeShone Kizer, being a Notre Dame fan like I am, but he's with the Browns, and the Steelers grabbed the quarterback in the 4th round, Josh Dobbs, who's supposed to be ultra smart, and a lot of upside to him, a lot of room to grow, and he's got time to do it. You know, Ben's got a couple, 3 years left. Who knows how long he'll go, but he's got some time there. And then, again, some more support in the later rounds with another defensive back, Brian Allen of Utah, a long snapper, a real surprise, you know, especially since Greg Warren's been around for so long and done a great job with that for the Steelers. And then another defensive player, Keon Adams out of Western Michigan, is a defensive end, so another maybe pass rush type guy. So I think the Steelers looked at need, but also grabbed some guys that they thought were good fits there for the team. So I think overall it was a good draft. I mean, probably a solid B+ draft for the Steelers. In my view, anywhere from B to B+. I don't think it was your A or A+ type draft, but it was a really solid draft for the Steelers. You know, looking at other areas of sports, of course, in the professional ranks, the Pirates, just can't seem to get it together. You know, when they pitch, they can't hit. When they hit, they can't field. You know, just no consistency from game to game. But, they made it through April, only being a couple games out because no one's really doing anything overly exciting right now in the National League Central. But May is separation month a little bit. They've got to do some things in May or it's going to be a long season. So we'll really watch the Pirates here during the month of May to see if they can get their act together. Of course, the Penguins are making a great run, but how long will Sidney Crosby's concussion symptoms linger? Even if he can get back on the ice, will one little hit put him back on the shelf? We hope not. I mean, it was really unfortunate to see that happen in the series with the Caps, and hopefully the Penguins can keep moving along here. And in the NBA, the Cavs and Warriors look like they're on a collision course, but no Steve Kerr coaching the Warriors. He's out. Mike Brown having to coach the Warriors. Don't have back surgery unless you absolutely have to. I mean, Steve Kerr having the effects from a back surgery 2 years ago where he had some leak of some spinal fluid, things of that nature. Only have back surgery if you absolutely have to. He's even saying that. Rehab. Avoid back surgery if at all possible. But my picks to reach the finals, Cavs and Warriors still appear to be on a collision course to do that. That's all we have time for this week. We'll see you again next week on the Jamie Bordas Show.